already. So the way it's going to work, you have to quiz 3 people total who aren't sitting at the table. So you just stand up and walk past each other. And try not to like shout out and like fly. Give it away. There's 14 people, so we'll just step up there.
I'm gonna guess that.
You're not?
Okay,
Alright, was anybody successful in fooling all 3 people? Like, they quiz?
You fooled everyone?
Alright, so since there's so many like don't know in here, and maybe I don't remember everything about you from last semester anyway, then write a little paragraph about yourself. So put your name on there so I know who wrote it. Very sure about it, see why you're in class, stuff like that. So I want you to think about this in the back of your mind. What's one non-school thing you're good at? Could be something. Alright, so thinking about that thing that you're good at, how do you become good at it? And you put both of these for free. So you just push any button to turn them on, and then you can vote, and then it'll tell you what your vote was if it works. See a little letter, and then it'll turn itself on. Yeah, so exactly. So we've got 83% for practicing. Let's share what we're good at. Or enjoy doing. I don't. Okay. It's also one of those things you never feel like you're good at. Certainly how I call it. Good is that thing that's good. It's good for your emotional control. It's good for management. Yeah. I definitely remember my grandpa trying to teach me golf. And you swing, you mess up, so you go up there and you swing harder. His head, Sorry, I'm not 60 and I control my emotions. What am I going to do? So, learning science is the same thing. Still a skill. I don't know why we have this idea that being good at school or something is just about listening, when that's not how you learn to do anything else. We've all participated at my class, but I try to make things much more active. So you're actually practicing the material in class. So drawing stuff on the tables, making questions for each other, solving problems in a group. And then obviously the whole lab where you're dissecting stuff that reinforces what you learned about. So it is active. I only have about one person manage to fall asleep in my class every year. It's crazy because how do you fall asleep when you're talking and working with people every 10 minutes? It's always one person. I bet people fall asleep. This one guy fell asleep 2 minutes after he got here. Before even starting class, he was like, "Oh, there's a go." Wow, impressive. Alright, so next thing is in your group, we're going to have you write down as many questions as you have about how the class works. People in the class, obviously, you can do a lot of these and other things. You don't know how classes work. In general, what specific questions might you have about life? So I've got 2 syllabuses for each group to look at. try to find answers for questions. Feel free to unstaple them or share them with your own room. And then we'll go over some things. Yeah, looks like it. So this is still live. So I'm gonna go over brief overview of the class. And then if there's anything you didn't find in the syllabus or that I didn't answer, so the setup, there's less lecture in here. Usually I talk for 15 minutes, and then do a quick question, or which those little white things are clickers. We have lots of time for individual assignments, pair assignments, whatever creative thing you come up with. And I should say a big difference for 202 versus 201 is it's all about feedback and like controlling different things. So respiratory systems, like how do you keep the right amount of oxygen in CO2 in the blood? Digestive, how do you get the right amount of nutrients? Whereas 201, most of it's more like structure and function. Skeletal system, muscular system. So some people would say it's a little harder. It's just a different kind of thing, way of thinking. You have to figure out how to do all of this and then do this, telling this part of the body to change that. So it's kind of a difference for this class. What about negative experiences in groups? One person didn't work. So annoying. I'm trying to rush. Yeah. I definitely see that in like labs. Just rushing through. Definitely, so first of all, there's no graded work in here. If one person's doing the work, that's true. Whatever, it's not like you're doing great for someone else. And probably the best way to learn something is teaching someone else anyways. Or at least even just trying to teach it to them. Like even if maybe someone else in your group is going to correct you, like, well, yeah, you're mostly right, but what about this thing? Or are you sure it's not this? So you need to kind of talk it out and figure out how things work, especially for people. Of course, if you ever have any problems with your group, sit down, deal with them, very seldom have issues in here. I'll assign you groups on Thursday. Okay, and we'll change them every exam. Things fall up every 3 weeks or so. Seems to work well. Sometimes people get tired of each other. I don't know if you know that. Anyone who has a job, you're like, I have to work with this person like every day, forever. So my whole plan is, my philosophy is to have more time when you're actually thinking or discussing things. I learn a lot better than just thing. Kind of the traditional way is we'll just talk at you and you go home and have to think about it. Make connections or compare and contrast by yourself. So instead, what I'd like to do is kind of from home and then do the harder things. Hear like how the feedback works for oxygen levels or what happens if this case is helpful. I have just come up with my own. It's kind of where all the teaching research that works better. And one of the best papers was published in Journal Science from a professor at CU Boulder. I choose this one because science, obviously, we work that journal were one of the best ones. And you can tell because it's a really short name. Like, the shorter the name of the journal, the better. The journal is Science, Nature. If If you get one that's really long, then you don't find under the academics over anyways, they tested like 1,200 students in the undergraduate biology course. Took half of them like a regular course with a professor that they liked. It's lecture based. Go in there, you listen, you accept. And they do the other half, which is then that's done by grad students. Using that for questions, group assignments, discussions, and group. And then they gave all those students the same test. And you can see the dark bars here, which class did that. Yeah, so like, and it's pretty dramatic. Most of the students getting 3 to 5 were in the lecture class with grade bars. And all the students doing well, like 8, 9, 10, 12. And most of those questions were more like concept-based. You get the concept, little definitions. So the students are actually learning it at the level. So I actually did this with some people at Front Range when I was working there. We took half of our Bio202 classes and turned them into active learning classes. They gave all the students the same tests. All the students after they took our class as well. And you can see from their exam scores, you know, the dark dots, they're doing 6 points better in the first unit, like 12. Now it looks like about 20 points better. And then the final exam is like 10 or 15 points better. They're getting a lot better on the tests. And then it's kind of cool, this is Bio202. So then they actually did better in the next courses as well. This is showing you the pass rates of the for the active learning versus the not-active learning sections after they went to the next class. So like in 112, 20% better, 10%, 5% better, which is pretty good. What's the more aggressive is the actual percentage of students that got an A class in the next class. So like 112, 30% of those students in the active learning class got an A in their next class that they took. 204, it's like 20% better. So they're like more prepared, or they're more experienced with like critical thinking. Which of course, when you get to your next classes for nursing school or whatever else you're going to, you're going to be expected to think at those higher levels. This way you'll already be good at it. Probably be more likely to get A's later on. Okay, so let's show that. Alright, so what's kind of the structure? I think we should have some of this guide. Make more sense though. Who wants the special yellow one? So this is the U1 study guide. It is on D2L. If you want a digital copy or something, so just type on it. Do it. Okay, good. Alright, so basically I'll be asking you to learn the bold items at home. You can see like chapter 20, part 1, the top half is bold. So that's what you'll be having your first quiz Thursday. And before we take our quiz, we'll have the opportunity to ask any questions. Let's say you're home trying to figure out, describe the alveolar pressure changes that cause inflation, so you can figure it out. Just put a star by it, before the quiz, you can ask and talk about it together. We take a little quiz, 5 question quiz, and then little answers, quick 5 questions. Then we just do the lecture with your questions, different assignments throughout. And so then the lecture focuses on the rest of the study guide, the things that are hard. Explain how the structure of respiratory membrane supports inspection, or contrast types external and internal respiration. And then your exams will be over this. This is your whole unit 1. We've got what, 3 chapters. Respiratory, digestive, and metabolism. Your points. We'll talk more about the lab stuff in lab. Do we have lab today or tomorrow? Okay, we'll talk about tomorrow. It takes me like 2 weeks to remember my schedule is. It's really the reason it's posted out there, so I know. I thought I was teaching 201 this morning, and then like, why are all these people I already taught coming here? So for the lecture, though, we got those reading quizzes. They're worth 10% of your grade. I've dropped the 3 lowest of those. Don't kind of study this class. Get like you're late, basically get free. And for the most part, if you're actually coming to class, those quizzes bring the grade up. They average out, and you get a few 5s, 4s. Usually you're getting a B or an A on those. Unless you're not studying or not coming. We have 4 exams. Good cumulative finals. For that one, you'll get a separate study guide. It'll have 3 or 4 things from each whole study guide. So I decided would be good for you to know forever. Or for at least 6. Fix that. And one fun thing we do, at least I think it's fun for the exams, is once you're finished, you stay around. Then you have your group take the multiple choice part for bonus points. But you get 80% right, 3 points. Everybody in your group, you get 90%, you get 5. You get 100. It happened a few times last semester. You get 7 out of it. You get bonus points, and then you get to kind of review the questions with your group like right away. And it's interesting, most of the time the group kind of test is better than any single person did on their test. So if they go back and talk about it, they're like, oh, right. Alright, you do have to come to class. If you're not here, you're not going to learn anything. So, I don't like, you get a 0 on your quiz, and I'll take off points some other way. It's just, if you're not here, you're not gonna get that. This isn't easy, it's not it's on your own. Which I think is what makes online biology pretty hard. People are like really by yourself. You can make up one exam as long as you tell me the band or the band, if I'm sick, or if I'm sick. I have to work when there's a English cut during one of those office hours. On the front of the syllabus, make your time. You don't want to eat prepared. You all took 201. What do you think's on these tables? Might be some brains on there, some eyeball juice. I mean, they're clean, but the exams are multiple choice, like 65 to 70%, and then 30 to 35 point choice. And most of those essay ones you take it directly from the study guide, word for word most of the time. So you kind of know in advance what the questions will be. Yes?
Are we going to go on computers here, or are we get some and something?
Yeah, so it'll just be written. Yeah, I think people in general don't do as well. Or I think they rush or Alright, did anyone write questions down about extra credit? Yeah, so we do have an opportunity for extra credits. Say one of the one. whereas one percentage point is like a grade. So if you got an 89, it's going to be a 90, that kind of thing. That's the same as getting 10 extra points on an exam. So all you have to do is find a news article about anatomy physiology, which there's quite a few of those, right? Anything about a human body or disease or whatever. And then there's a worksheet posted on B2 this is out there. Just says extra credit for content. You answer a few questions and then you'll present your answers for those questions in the class. There's always cool stuff happening that I don't hear about. Maybe anybody else heard about it today. You could do a fun.
Just clarify there.
And I think if you got 14, like I'll print out a sign up sheet. Take a day in advance. Otherwise, what do you think's gonna happen? You're gonna have like 10 people come on the final exam day. Yeah, I think I want to do extra credit now. Okay. So sign up for the day. Right, you don't have to do it. So do it. I'm pretty familiar with B12. Okay, if you have any trouble, just let me know. Basically, it's got stuff in content, like it's really helpful. I don't know if you've already, but printing the PowerPoints before, all you do is the day before, print out and then you can just your things on there. Especially with writing answers to the quicker questions. Whatever else. It's a lot more useful than just trying to write down on the PowerPoint. Kind of getting annoyed, but I'll get some techniques and be like, wait, I want to copy down the rest of that slide. Hold on. So that you can have it. You don't need to spend 5 minutes for you to write down what's written up there. So, what's the best way to succeed from what I see it? Number one is actually knowing these bold things. How do you think you know if you know them? How do you make sure? Yeah, so you make note cards for them. And you can actually say the answers without looking at them, or you can print out a blank one of these with yourself. That'll give you a lot more confidence for your quiz. And also, if you actually know this stuff, I think it's going to make the rest of it easier when you're in class. So, when people are struggling, that's usually what's happening. Because they'll be writing the answers, so it's great. They don't actually know them. They come in and do the hard stuff, and they're still trying to figure out what these words mean. So it really helps a lot. For anyone who had 201 with me or with the summary, did you feel like reading the whole chapter was helpful? Okay. I don't think so either. So use the book as a resource, so you can find answers to study guide things. Kind of scan through for the main ideas. But just as everybody just said, just reading the whole chapter all the way through is probably not all that helpful. Because there's so much in there, so your brain just kind of shuts off after a while. Great. And no surprise, one semester I made a graph of how students did on their reading quizzes and how they did on their exams. So each of those points is one student. What do you notice in that graph? Yeah, so the better they do on the reading quiz, the better they do on the exam. So no real surprise there. Ratio equals better, learning is wrong. So actually, if you're doing everything right, when you go and study for your exam, you're probably going to know almost everything already. You'll just be like reviewing a few things. That'd be the goal. You shouldn't have to be like learning stuff on your own or taking on the task. Sure, you know it. And another big suggestion that we'll probably learn as they've gone through school is keeping it simple. So, how long do you think definitions should be? 20 words. Pick a number. Okay, I think you should be able to get it down to 4 or 5 words. So, and if you look at the back of your book, how long are the definitions in the back of your book?
Really long.
Like 2 or 3 sentences? So do yourself a favor, don't write that definition down. Read it, think about it, put it in 4 or 5 words. What's the main point? That's because obviously what's easier, memorizing 4 words or memorizing 2 sentences? 4 words. And you've already put it to those 4 words and make sense to you. And a great thing for study groups is that you can kind of prepare what you answer. So you've got sort of the same stuff. So it's kind of interesting. So somebody's struggling and will come show me their notes. It's never too little written down. There's always too much. We'll have a paragraph for list of components. And all you need is 5 words. What are the components? So I spend a lot of time thinking about items and like what the verb means, making sure that you know what I want you to know. You can always come ask you. Alright. Let's do this one. So based on that, what do you think the best answer for you had a study guide thing that said define mutation? What would be the best answer right now for that? Like for these clickers, you can't always change your vote. It takes your last vote. Alright, so we're listing well. I agree that A is the best answer. The change in the heating sequence. Sounds like B. That sounds like something you might read in the back of the book. All those, everything up here is true, but that's the best answer. Right. So I am here for, let's see, my office hours. So if you're ever stuck on anything, you want extra help, my basically 4 days a week. 12 to 3 on Monday, after this class for an hour, 30 to 3, Wednesdays 12:30 to 3, etc., etc. So, especially if you feel like you're nervous and struggling, just bring your study guide by, and I can look at it, tell you where you're doing too much, too little, wrong, right. Really helpful. And you should do it soon. Don't wait until you've struggled on 2 or 3 exams. So you're going to get all worried and like, be frustrated and feel confident. So, haven't had my class before, really nervous, come by next week. And what do you think you should wait to answer everything on here? So the best thing to do probably is, we're doing 23 part 1 on Thursday. So over the weekend, make sure you got the answers. Then you have time to ask your classmates, ask me, I didn't think this one. Yeah, your first reading quiz is on Thursday. On the whole stuff there. And especially for 202, I mean, for each chapter, there's a lot of stuff on here. You don't want to wait till September, whatever the test is, to try to learn all that stuff. All right. So obviously one of the challenges for school is time management. And for most of you, just go to school and go home and relax every day. is when are you gonna have 6 hours?
Right.
There we go. So when are you gonna have 6 hours during the week to study? And then answer 2 and 3. And for now, just do 1 through 3 for now. So write down which of these those. Alright. So in your group, I should talk about your answers for 2 and 3. Alright. So what are some suggestions for number 3? What did you write down for 3 there? Lots of questions. You think people ask lots of questions, maybe they're struggling. So they're the ones doing the best. Just ask a question that means you're thinking about what you don't know, and then making sure you know that. So you got questions in there. And they can be with me, be with your classmates. Put up. Okay, what is how? Okay, what is what word? What is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's where you walk into the exam and as soon as you get the paper, you hurry to write everything you can remember now before you lose it because of the
Oh, and you can remind me, if you want scratch paper for your test, to do something like that. Anything else? Alright, what do you think? Why do you think students struggle by the classes? Or it's more difficult? What?
They don't come to study.
The study guides, time outside of class, do things. What else? Do you think of anything more lifestyle related?
I was gonna say job. I don't worry. I was gonna say if we have kids, then should we do something like
Yeah, especially got kids at home you're responsible for, like putting something in the calendar where dad's watching him or babysitter or your mom or whoever is around, a friend, where every Sunday from 3 to 5 or 3 to 6, that's my time to study, and everybody knows it. Things that happen. So I know. When I have a 2-year-old home, so trying to plan lessons or grade stuff while you're watching her, it's like you think you're gonna get something done, and you don't. It's been 3 hours and you graded 3 tests. You're like, what happened? I don't know what happened. I thought I was gonna do all this stuff. What else? So there is lots of studies showing that exercising really helps. So before you start studying, go exercise for 20 minutes. Grow up. YouTube has tons of great exercise videos and Pilates and yoga from YouTube. Just cool because you can do it anytime you want. Find what you like, save up. So I'll try to work for 2 hours and then take a little exercise break for 15 minutes and then go study some more. Yeah, if you're starting getting in the way, that stress response, where you're making stress hormones, feeling like you can't think anymore, exercise dissipates those hormones. So it's not like something people made up. There is science behind it. And they've studied it helps you live better. Also, what you eat matters. So, what do you think's better to eat before you study? Donuts or an omelet or something? Maybe some dark chocolate. But think about those things. I think for the most part, people don't struggle because they're not smart. Because they don't have the time. Maybe they're not exercising. They've gotten in bad habits of eating. Not enough sleep too. So think about all those things. last thing you're gonna do, and this is just for you to keep think about. It's questions 4 and 5. So what do you think is gonna get in the way of your success this semester? Like what are plans for 2021? So just go write that down. You can see it below. I'm gonna collect it.
Your motivation is lacking.
See the lab tomorrow. Bring your lab books if you have them. And we'll watch the Title IX video. You don't have to prepare. Well, we're gonna watch it. So just comment what time for lab 3 tomorrow. You won't have that this month. Totally no. Talk about lab.
That way
It's funny, we connected to one yesterday. And they're like, hey, we didn't come to lab today. So yeah, I guess I should have told you that. It's out.